Welcome to another episode of Let's Parley, where we encourage you to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. I'm your host, Monty Taylor, and without further ado, let's parlay. All right, what's going on, y'all? This episode is going to be, well, first and foremost, before we get into all that, thank you again for listening. I always like to make sure I say thank you for tuning in. You could be doing anything with your time right now. You could be listening to anything, but you decided to listen to my black behind. So I appreciate you very much for tuning in to another episode. And this episode is something that's very near and dear to me personally. I feel like it's a lesson that I've had to learn for myself quite recently and probably throughout the course of my life. So I'm going to have a lot of thoughts, and this is going to be pretty dense. And hopefully, it's something that could help you out personally because I feel like everybody deals with it. But it's just not something that's very much talked about in practice in a healthy way. So, what we're going to be talking about today is betting on yourself versus betting on other people. Okay. What that may mean to some people off of the surface is unbeknownst to me. But what I mean by saying that is when you have a certain vision or a certain destiny, and you are constantly relying on others in order to make that thing happen or to even validate that you should be doing it, we got a problem. We got a problem. Okay. I've had to learn this the hard way, but I've often seen a lot of people stop pursuing something because of external influences. And the thing that I really want to drive home here is that you can't go through life expecting to accomplish what has been ordained for you based on other people's opinions, right? Nobody else is going to understand it as much as you do because you're the one who can see it. It's in your imagination. It's in your mind. It's in your heart. For me, that's something that I've had to come to terms with, but oftentimes it's hard to practice that. And that's what we want to talk about today. So I'll start off with this question. You ever started something and then looked back and then said, why did I trust that person to do that thing? Right? Too often we bet on other people to help us with what we're called to do instead of believing in ourselves and trusting God. And I always like to start off with like a little funny tidbit or just a funny thought. And it made me think about even just the name of this podcast, Let's Parlay, and how a lot of people are into sports gambling nowadays. I mean, even fantasy football or fantasy basketball, these leagues can get pretty intense. And I've seen it firsthand. And there's so much of a reliance on one person's performance in order for them to feel good about whatever they're watching or consuming or even just about themselves. And some people rely their incomes off of this sort of like betting and gambling. And I couldn't imagine. I mean, just putting all of my, time and energy or even my finances into one player's performance. I mean, how the hell do I know that he's going to perform the way that I expect him to? He could be having a bad day, or she could be, going through some tough changes in life, and then shows up to the game that day, unlike what she's statistically been doing, just poops the bed, and now I got to live with those consequences. It's just the wrong bet to be placing. So anyway, I just thought that that was an interesting thought that came across my mind. Is like, yo, like there's a lot of people who really depend on one particular athlete's performance in order for them to feel good about themselves, or even to make money. I mean, I've seen people like comment on Instagram and TikTok about like, oh man, you made me miss my parlay, and I'm like, I mean, the fact that you had the audacity to make it publicly known that you relied on this one particular person's performance for your peace and happiness. I mean, my God, brother, we need help. We need help. But anyway, that's my rant. If you're into sports gambling and you do it for fun, then that's fine. But I have my thoughts about pursuing that as a lifelong career. Anywho, so I want to talk about first the misalignment of placing too much trust in others. And what I mean by misalignment is that it creates a misalignment when you have a particular vision, but you're waiting on others to validate it, to carry it out. That's a misalignment. Because if it's your vision then it's really hard for someone else to validate it because they're not in your head. They haven't dreamed about the things that you've dreamed. They haven't lived the life that you've lived. So, in order for you to get some sort of confirmation from someone else, it's going to be very, very difficult for that person to see things exactly how you see them. Now, granted, there are some people who are going to be great cheerleaders, who are going to be those supportive figures in your life, who are going to encourage you, this, that, and the third. But it's really a misalignment in your heart if you're seeking validation from other people to get what you have been called to do done. All right. So I just want you to start off with that frame. Um, this topic around false expectations leading to disappointment. So when people don't come through, right, it shakes our confidence. But the reality is that we never should have gave them that responsibility in the first place. Why are we putting this in their hands? Like, if you got something that you need to get done, and yes, it requires a team and people aligned with your vision, that's a whole different story, right? But even in that case, you should have systems in place and you should have a belief enough in yourself and in the vision that it does not matter if someone falls short on a particular task or on a particular piece of advice that you're seeking from them, because that's your vision. It's your responsibility. You're accountable for it. So at the end of the day, you looking at someone else and trying to point the finger at them for stopping your progress is the exact opposite of fulfilling your vision. And that's the mind frame, or that's the mindset that I want you to take on, is that real accountability, that ownership over what it is that you've been called to do. Because again, nobody else understands it but you. You've been the one who's been gifted it. And I want to make something very clear. I want you to focus on faith over dependence. Okay? I don't want you to think that it has to be done purely by yourself. I'm not trying to drive home that point. Although there are some industries, like if you're in a service based business where it can be entirely on you, then maybe that's the case. But even within that realm, it doesn't always have to be entirely on you. However, it's just the change in trust. It's okay, I'm not going to trust that this person is going to make or break my vision. That is the wrong mentality to have. I'm going to trust that God or whatever it is that I believe in the future is going to present that opportunity. I'm trusting in that. That is what I trust in more than this person who has been assigned this vital task or who has been, warranted that much of an opinion over my life and my vision. That's what I'm trying to drive home here. Faith over dependence. We do not want to depend on other people in order to pursue and do the things that we've been called to do. Okay. Another thing I want to drive home is you are in control of your own destiny, right? No one is going to hold you back. It's easy to say, oh, well, if this person had helped me, I'd be further along. I'd be doing this, that, and the third. And I've fallen into that trap too. And it's a very, very seducing thing to say, right? Because it's so tempting to like disassociate ourselves from an unexpected outcome, which a lot of people call failure. But the reality is that whatever you achieve in your life is going to be of your doing, and whatever you don't achieve, it's going to be of your doing too. There's just too many examples of people who have come from way worse circumstances than you probably are going through and still managed to figure it out. Still managed to not only make it, but succeed and excel and do better than anybody else. So there is no reason for you to be pointing the finger at other people, making it seem like they're the reason that you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And also, when you're looking for advice and when you're looking for support from family members and friends, if someone doesn't support your dream, that doesn't mean you stop. That means you adjust, right? If you're dependent on somebody who doesn't support your dream, then again, your life is in your control. Remove the dependency. Because if that dependency still remains, then that person now has authority over your vision. And you want to be in the best position where you can have complete authority over your vision. And if one thing doesn't go well, or if one thing slips through the cracks, you still have that ownership and that accountability towards what you've been called to do. So take ownership over your path. right? Look at the destination that you are wanting to go to, map out your GPS route and say, I'm going to get there. Now, no matter what the traffic looks like, no matter if I get cut off, no matter if I got someone in the passenger seat trying to tell me that I got to make a left when I know I'm supposed to make a right because that's what the GPS says. Okay, we all know those passenger seat drivers that we can't stand driving alongside. No matter what happens on that front, it is your responsibility to take ownership over that. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about this wagon analogy that my uncle had put me onto. And it's always funny because I feel like every time we see him, he always brings up this analogy as if we had never heard it. You ever got those family members who are just like repeating the same things that they've said to you all throughout your life and then bringing it up as if it's like new, that you haven't heard it for the past 15 years, that you were conscious enough to have a conversation with them? Anyway, uh, that clearly hits near and dear to my heart. So, but I wanted to share one that I felt I've always heard, and it's around how you place people or how you associate people in your life. How do you assign them? Are they people who are going to be supporting your dreams? Are they people who are going to be halting your dreams? Are they people who are just going to be encouraging you? And this analogy is really thinking about like pushing a wagon, for example, right? So, say if you got a wagon and uh, you have another person in your life, and what you're essentially trying to figure out is how is this person affecting your wagon experience? There's a person who is, pulling or pushing the wagon along with you. That's obviously the best case scenario. Someone who believes in your vision that much that they're going to help you with it. They're going to help you execute it. They're going to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form with their actions. Then there's the other person who may not be able to push you, may not be able to, contribute in any sort of like physical way, but they're the encourager. They're maybe inside of the wagon and they're like, you go, Monty, or you go, you, whoever's listening right now, you got this. Like the encouragement, the support, maybe providing some resources and connecting you with people who can help push the wagon along as well too. There's those type of people as well too. The third category is the person you want to avoid at all possible costs. And it doesn't have to be a complete cutoff, but what it can be is just certain boundaries that you place on that relationship you have with that person. And this is the person that's dragging the wagon. I guess that kind of rhymed, but yeah, they're dragging it along. They're creating additional resistance. They're making it more difficult for you to get what you are trying to get done, whether it be by not encouraging you, by telling you that you're crazy for doing what you're about to do, um, for pursuing a mission that is so crazy and so out there, for leaving a career path that was so stable and so steady. These are the type of people who, might not even do it in very direct ways, but in very subtle ways, where it's just they're making it less convenient for you to pursue what you've been called to pursue. These are the type of people that you have to be very wary of. And you have to have an honest conversation with yourself about how you can not only set boundaries, but even possibly remove them from your life so that you can do what you're supposed to do. And I know that may sound harsh, but at the end of the day, that one person's feelings that you may be hurting throughout that experience is going to enable you to impact possibly tens to hundreds to thousands to maybe even millions of people if you actually pursue what you were called to pursue, if you actually do what you were talented enough to do and what you were blessed with the ability to do. That is what is at stake. Yes, I know it can seem very daunting because you've had long relationships with certain people. There's a lot of like common experiences that you share with these people. And a lot of the times we got to look at each situation and be like, okay, if it's family, obviously I'm going to continue to see family. So I do not plan on just completely exiling this person out of my life. But maybe there are boundaries you can place. Maybe you realize that you cannot speak to this person about what you're trying to achieve because the words that they spew out aren't encouraging, aren't going to help you. And if anything, it makes you more doubtful. So maybe you just realize I don't talk to this person about my dreams and goals. Uh, it could even be, when it comes down to advice, because a lot of the times we look for support and validation for our decisions from others. And I think I may have mentioned this before, but we got to check the fruit on the tree. If you try to get advice from someone who hasn't gone through what you're going through, or believes that they have heard of something with regards to what you're about to do, but haven't experienced it, that ain't the best fruit to be picking off of a tree. All right. You want to get advice from someone who's actually gone through what you've gone through or something similar, so that you can have a more healthy conversation with the person about their experiences matching up with what you're about to experience. So yeah, it's a hard thing to do, but it's something that is necessary in order for you to accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. For example, I have had many relationships that I had personally ended mainly for that reason, was because I never felt like I had that true and um, undisturbed support on what it was that I was about to do, or even just like an appreciation for what it was that I was about to do. Whether it be quitting my job, whether it be, um, you know, adhering to a certain schedule that works best for me to be productive. I mean, there's so many little things that sort of add up. And those were romantic relationships, but even on the friendship side, I've also had to realize that, yo, like I can't invest as much as I used to into this relationship, because it's not the return on investment is not there. If anything, it's depleting me. I'm not getting any returns. It's just taking away throughout this entire time that I engage in it. So something to really think about is, where are your friends? Where are your family in all of these different scenarios? Are they adding more resistance to the wagon? Are they making it harder for you to push this thing and go to where you're trying to go? Are they supporting you? Are they encouraging? Are they riding along with you and just hyping you up and allowing you to have more belief in whatever you're trying to do? Or are they the type of person where they'd actually ride with you? They're here to help out. They want to lend a hand in the whole process. They want to be a part of the journey. These are very, very important things to figure out when you're pursuing a mission for your life, because it'll make or break it. We are very social creatures. We are not meant to be alone. So, who we surround ourselves with is going to be very important, because we will be surrounding ourselves with someone. And it might as well be someone who's going to help you pursue what you've been called to do, because if it's not, they're only going to slow you down, and they're only going to slow down your progress towards helping the people that you've been called to help, or creating the beautiful work that you're supposed to create. So instead of focusing so much on others to validate or to push you along towards what you're trying to get accomplished, I want us to start shifting the focus back to you and back to God and back to whatever you believe is your source, because it requires some level of faith that things are going to work out. And if you don't believe that God's going to do it for you, or if you don't believe that some entity or just life will present you, the universe, whatever, if you don't believe that that thing is meant to bring it to you, then that's where we have our first problem. And focusing on others is only going to enable that problem to continue to grow and grow and grow. There's so many different instances that I've seen people stop doing things just because their family said that that didn't make sense, but it made so much sense for them, or it felt so right for them. We want to avoid those situations at all costs. So instead of asking, why won't they help? Why aren't they supportive? Why, they? I want us to focus on, what can I do with what I have right now and what I've been blessed with in order to move forward in the direction that I'm looking to go. That's where I want us to focus. That's where I want our eyes set forward on. And you are responsible for your own destiny. Again, like, let's just take it back to that ownership perspective, is that nobody else is meant to impact you the way that you can. All right. Like, this is your journey. You the only person that's going to live your life. So if you sit here and keep looking at other people to make or break your decisions, it's going to be a tough life where you look back and think, man, I didn't do this because other people convinced me not to do it. And that, my friend, is a life that you do not want to live. So no more waiting, no more excuses, just faith and action. All right. I hope that you found this helpful. Please feel free to comment, shoot me a message with anything that you may be, taking away from this message from today. Maybe who's in your wagon and what they're contributing or what they're not contributing, and just some general takeaways about this whole perspective of, evaluating your wagon and seeing who's in it, who's out of it, and who's adding resistance. All right. So thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Parlay. I hope you've been inspired to bet on yourself and pursue all that life has in store for you. God bless and have yourself a great day.